guarantee next week we'll be talking about another record day. But anyway, moving on now, it's time for the controversy. As if that wasn't controversial enough, a taxpayer-funded charity that promotes breastfeeding has sparked controversy by replacing the word mother with the term breastfeeding person. Critics accuse the Breastfeeding Network of erasing women in a bid to appease transgender activists after dropping the word mother from its social media posts. However, the charity insists using terms such as breastfeeding families helps broaden its message.
Let's talk to Kellie-Jay Minshall, founder of Standing Up for Women and better known as Posie Parker. Thank you for joining us this morning. I mean, isn't this just another move towards inclusivity? We know now that, trans men, they can actually get pregnant and give birth. And is this a way to make it more inclusive?
No, I think inclusion is a mask for actually excluding women from the conversation, whether it's women's reproductive capacity, just the way we live our lives, the fact that cervix have a breastfeeding. I mean, this is just another in a very long line of erasing women's language.
Is demanding this? I mean, sometimes it does feel like a lot of these organisations are taking this action without anyone really demanding it. Are trans activists really demanding for this to be changed?
I'm not really sure if trans activists are demanding it. They certainly like to use female language for themselves when it comes to men who call themselves women. So I think there is a bit of an overcorrection. I think some people who think they're being helpful and inclusive, which has become a word to mask all sorts of misogyny. But I think they probably think they're being helpful. But I can't imagine. I mean, my youngest is 12 years old, but there's something so magic about getting your yellow book when you first get your pregnancy confirmed with maternity services, and it's expectant mother, and you get to use this word, and then you breastfeed, and just all the stuff around it is really affirming. It's a pretty magic thing to do, to be a mother, and to have that word taken from expectant and new mothers and even old mothers is quite disgusting.
And why do you think it always seems to be things related to women? We don't really hear, people with other male body parts, for example. It always seems to be with regards to different parts of the body that related to women.
Well, I don't know. Prostate cancer, for example, doesn't call men prostate havers or testicle wearers, whereas women, we're called, as I said, cervix havers, menstruators, and so on. For example, in cervical cancer, I think even in Canada, they had a special page for so-called trans women in cervical cancer, so they didn't feel excluded, but they called women cervix havers, and then in male cancers like prostate havers, they said the strapline is it's a man thing. So it couldn't be a more overtly misogynist and just really obvious that it's women that are being erased.
Yeah, and it does only seem to go one way, as Inaya's question alluded to there, doesn't it, really? And are you worried that there's maybe something slightly bigger at play here? It's not just maybe the kind of potential erosion of women, I suppose, but a move towards just quite an androgynous society?
Yeah, I think it's all part of a move towards the destruction of the family, because I think mothers are really quite integral. I don't know, in families, it seems like we give birth, we take care of small children in a way that men just can't. And I think if you want to destroy the family, then a very quick route is to destroy mothers and motherhood, because we essentially shield and put the family together. And that isn't to discount what men do, because I think children need really decent fathers, preferably in the home.
Why do they want to destroy the family then? What's the point of that agenda?
Well, we can go into big tinfoil hat wearing stuff, but I think if you destroy the family, you have more control over your subjects. It could just be a relative number of completely incompetent individuals who don't really know what they're doing. But I do think the family unit is really under attack. It comes, broadly, if we look at the way the state is now trying to mandate that they can vaccinate our children without our consent, I think it just is part of a very big worrying trend.
And Would you like to see any particular intervention? We know that the reform of the Gender Recognition Act is being shelved. Is there anything that either government can do or ordinary people can do to stop this erasure of women as you're describing?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to do is probably get rid of the word gender. I think it's a nonsensical word. It has no legal definition. So I'd like to see that go along with the Gender Recognition Act. I think that is just a legal fiction that nobody needs and is useful for, certainly not for any women in the country. And I also think if you're partly funded by our government, then the government have an absolute duty to ensure that you are protecting both men and women and children first and foremost, in those legal definition and defined terms. And so I think if you are partly funded by the government, you don't get to erase our language in any way, shape or form.
Well, just to quickly get you with one here, David's been in touch. David says he's a proud testicle wearer and he's also gay. I find it appalling that a very vocal minority are trying to erase the value and the meaning of mothers. So you've got a fan there in David. I suspect there's quite a lot of that going about.
Well, certainly the LGB part of LGBTQ+, the LGB part are just as much victims of this very vocal trans activism as any of the rest of us. I would say lesbians in particular, they are completely erased from the LGBT movement.
Thank you so much, Kellie-Jay Keane-Minshaw, founder of Standing for Women, also known as Posie Parker.
There we go. Yes, lots of emails coming into that. We'll go to them shortly, but just moving away quickly. The government has reportedly drawn up plans for an